You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle tug in your chest, that whisper just beneath your heartbeat, the sensation that something unseen, something vast and divine, has been slowly rearranging itself around you. It's not fantasy. It's not false hope. It's the signal and the reason you've been hearing it. The reason your body flinches at routine, the reason your spirit trembles at the edge of stillness, is because the thing you've been crying out for is finally making its way to you. No, not just the desire, not just the surface-level wish, but the deep ache beneath all the words, the one you couldn't even fully name. That prayer, it was heard, and it is being answered. But here's what you may not realize. The answer was never delayed. It was being built, it was being aligned, it was waiting for you, not in punishment but in precision, because the kind of blessing you called in with your tears, it carries weight, and weight must be held, not just received. So what looked like silence was training. What felt like delay was design. And chosen one, you haven't been waiting in vain. You've been becoming the version of you who doesn't panic in the pause, who doesn't beg for crumbs of confirmation, who doesn't chase timelines that weren't meant to hold your magic. This version of you is ready, even if you don't feel like it yet, even if part of you is still bracing for another disappointment, even if your hands still tremble when you reach forward. Read this closely. The trembling isn't weakness, it's awakening. Your body remembers the pain, but your soul remembers the promise. And that promise, it's not floating somewhere far away. It's brushing against the edges of your energy. You've seen the signs, haven't you? Numbers repeating when you least expect. Names you haven't heard in years showing up in passing. Dreams that feel more real than your waking life. Those aren't coincidences. They're signals, echoes, confirmations. Proof that heaven is close. So close, it's already reshaping the fabric of your reality. But here's the part no one tells you. The thing you prayed for, it requires participation. You don't just get to wish for it, you have to prepare for it. You have to stretch, you have to surrender, you have to become magnetic. And becoming magnetic isn't about working harder. It's not about forcing smiles or performing faith. It's about clearing space. It's about letting go of the fear, of the doubt, of the old narratives that said you had to fight for everything. Because what's coming to you doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be matched, and that matching happens not with effort but with energy. So now the question becomes, are you willing to carry the frequency of what you prayed for before it arrives? Because if you're not, it will knock and find no place to land. But if you are, if you've already started walking like it's yours, if you've already started speaking like it's close, if you've already started living like you're aligned, then brace yourself, because it's coming faster than you expect. Not in chaos, not in confusion, but in clarity, in divine unfolding, and it will arrive so gently, so precisely, you'll almost miss it if you're still stuck in the posture of pain. You see, the old you prayed in desperation, but the new you receives in peace. And peace is what draws it in, because the version of you who had to hustle for every ounce of joy, they were necessary, they carried you, they protected you, but now it's time to release them. You are no longer begging, you are aligning. And alignment is not passive, it's powerful, it's intentional, it's energetic agreement with the future already written for you. So inhale, chosen one, and exhale everything that made you think you were behind. Behind what? Behind who? You're not behind. You're being perfectly positioned. Every no was a redirection. Every delay was divine preparation. Every closed door was protection. And now the blueprint of your life, the one you almost forgot existed, is being activated page by page. So don't flinch when the light comes. Don't apologize when the blessing fits perfectly. Don't sabotage when peace starts to feel normal. You're not stealing this moment, you're stepping into it. This is not about being lucky, this is about being ready. And you, whether you believe it yet or not, are ready. Now watch what happens when you believe that. Before you had the words, before you understood energy, timing, purpose, you felt it, a weightless pull in the center of your chest, a quiet hum in the background of everything, not pain, not fear, but a sense of urgency wrapped in stillness, like something was coming, like something had already begun. And no matter how much you tried to explain it, no one else seemed to hear it the way you did. They said, just be patient. They said, it's all in your head. They said, you're expecting too much. But what they didn't understand, what you couldn't even fully explain, was that you weren't expecting something. You were remembering it. It wasn't hope. It was recognition. Something deep within you had already seen what your eyes had not. And even when everything around you stayed the same, that quiet inner signal kept growing louder, not with sound, but with truth. And that truth, it started showing up in whispers, little moments that seemed too precise to be coincidence, repeating numbers that made your breath catch, unexpected phrases that echoed thoughts you hadn't shared, dreams that carried emotions too big to forget by morning. You weren't imagining things. You were being reminded that your prayers weren't just words thrown into the sky. They were codes, coordinates, keys to realities your soul already knew existed because you, chosen one, weren't praying for anything random. You were reaching for what was already marked for you, and now the reaching has been heard. But before it could arrive, before the unseen could materialize, you had to be readied, not just in body but in belief, because the universe won't send a promise to a version of you that's still loyal to lack. So the waiting came, not as punishment, but as purification. You were shown what wasn't you. You were stripped of what couldn't follow. You were called to release even the things that once felt sacred, and that hurt more than you admitted, more than anyone knew. You questioned everything. You whispered, "Why does this feel so hard?" And yet, you stayed. Not because it made sense, but because the knowing wouldn't let you leave. That knowing wasn't emotion, it wasn't logic, it wasn't ego. It was ancestral memory, spiritual data, soul-level truth. It was the part of you that remembered, before pain, before timelines, before disappointment, that what you were asking for was already yours. But to receive it, you had to match it, and so you were pulled inward, you were led away from the noise. You were placed in stillness. You were asked to let go of your grip on things that felt like identity, but were really just coping mechanisms. And through all of that, the grief, the silence, the letting go, something remarkable happened. You started to shift. You no longer begged. You began to align. You no longer sought approval. You learned to self-attune. You no longer ran after signs. You became the signal. And that shift, it changed everything. Because now, when the energy arrives, it won't find you pleading. It'll find you prepared. And preparation is not just mindset, it's embodiment. It's choosing presence over panic, peace over proof, wholeness over hustle. You no longer need to be convinced. You simply know. You know that what's coming isn't fragile. You know that the silence wasn't punishment. You know that delay was actually divine pacing. And because you know, you've become magnetic, not flashy, not forceful, but anchored. And that's what the promise needed. It needed a container, a vessel, a soul strong enough to carry it with reverence, not rush. And that's you now. You've moved from the waiting room to the receiving field. So don't rush past this moment. Don't bypass the beauty in the now. Don't skip over the peace that has quietly replaced the pressure. This is the space between no longer and not yet. This is where the roots finish forming, so the bloom can arrive in full. And when it does, you won't just recognize it, you'll resonate with it. Because you didn't just wait for it, you became worthy of it. And now, it's coming toward the version of you that can finally hold it. You kept asking, didn't you? Why is it taking so long? Why hasn't anything shifted yet? Why does it feel like everything is standing still while your heart races ahead? But beloved, what you called silence was actually synchronization. Every step of the journey you couldn't see was orchestrated with divine accuracy. You weren't forgotten. You were being fitted, thread by invisible thread, into a reality that would hold not just your desires, but the weight of them. Because what you prayed for, it's not light, it's not shallow, it's not small, it's sacred. And sacred things take shape in silence, not in chaos, not in noise, but in the hush between heartbeats, in the stillness between moments, in the breath that holds nothing, yet contains everything. That's where the universe was working, in the unseen, in the unspoken, in the energy fields you never thought to look into, and you were never without motion. You were being moved differently. What looked like nothingness on the outside was a full-blown reconfiguration beneath the surface. So every delay, it was a door being moved into place. Every pause, an obstacle being cleared before your arrival. Every silence, a divine hand stitching your path so you wouldn't fall through the cracks of misalignment. You were not being denied. You were being divinely timed, and the difference between delay and divine timing is that the latter makes you ready before the arrival. Anyone can receive, but not everyone can hold what they receive. That's why you felt stretched. That's why your patience was tested. That's why it seemed like others were being blessed while you were benched, but you weren't benched. You were being built. Because you weren't asking for anything ordinary, and the extraordinary demands inner preparation. And yes, that preparation is quiet. It looks like healing old wounds alone. It looks like whispering, "I still believe," after another closed door. It looks like wiping your own tears in the dark and choosing to rise again the next morning. That's what the universe saw. Not just your dreams, but your resilience. Not just your wishes, but your willingness to become what you asked for. That willingness, it rewrote the timeline, and now things are moving, not randomly, not reactively, but resonantly. Because the frequency you're stepping into is no longer about chasing. It's about drawing in. You're not waiting. You're welcoming, you're not begging, you're believing. And belief isn't passive, it's preparation in motion. It's lighting candles when the room is still dark. It's setting the table for blessings not yet delivered. It's holding space for miracles, as if they were running late but still on the way. And they are. You're not empty, you're open. And that openness, it's magnetic. It's what draws the orchestration into action. It's what signals the divine. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm available to be changed, available to be elevated, available to be aligned. Because now you understand. You were never waiting for something to happen. You were waiting to become someone who could meet it when it did. And now that version of you, they're almost fully formed. Almost, but not quite. There's one final piece, trust. Not the kind that hopes with crossed fingers, the kind that walks like it's already done, the kind that doesn't check the clock, the kind that doesn't panic when the sky stays quiet for a while. Because the sky may be quiet, but the stars are shifting, and your name, it's written across them, not in ink, but in energy, and that energy is starting to descend, not in thunder, but in waves, soft, steady, sure. So hold your posture. Don't collapse into old patterns just because the new hasn't fully arrived yet. Hold the frequency. Let the universe meet you where you already are, not where you used to be. You're not behind, you're in alignment. And alignment isn't something you force. It's something you feel, and right now that feeling, that warmth in your chest, that stillness in your breath, it's confirmation. It's not just coming, it's already begun. There comes a point in the journey where the prayer no longer lives in your mouth, it lives in your movement, where hope stops being a wish and starts becoming your way of walking. That's where you are now. You're not asking anymore, you're becoming the version of yourself who doesn't vibrate in scarcity, who doesn't tremble under uncertainty, who doesn't shrink in the presence of delay. Because what you once begged for in fear, you are now aligning with in frequency. And frequency doesn't lie, it doesn't need to shout, it simply matches. So now the universe isn't looking at your words, it's listening to your energy. And the question is simple. Do you walk like someone who has already received? Because receiving is not a passive event. It's an energetic embodiment, and that embodiment requires release. Release of the old story, release of the scarcity identity, release of the part of you that became addicted to waiting, to hoping, to grieving timelines that were never meant to hold your light. It's not your job to cling, it's your task to clear, because the version of you that's coming, the one who holds what you prayed for, cannot wear the armor of the version who only hoped for it. That armor is heavy. That armor was built in survival. And blessings, they don't land in survival mode. They land in safety. They land in readiness. They land where the energy is spacious enough to hold them. So this moment right now, this very breath, is sacred. Because this is the moment where you decide, I'm no longer begging for alignment. I am alignment. Not because you're perfect, not because it's easy, but because you've done the unseen work. The kind of work that leaves no certificate. The kind of work that doesn't get applause. The kind of work that rewires you from within. You've forgiven. You've surrendered. You've stayed soft when it was easier to go cold. And that softness, that's your superpower. The world told you strength was hardness, but the divine sees your tenderness as trust. Because staying open after everything you've been through, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. And that wisdom is what makes you ready, not ready to chase, not ready to force, but ready to receive without tension, to hold without fear, to live without waiting for the next bad thing to cancel the good. Because that old reflex, that was the trauma speaking. And now the healing is speaking louder. You're not scanning the horizon for what could go wrong. You're anchoring into what's already going right, because things are going right, even if it still feels quiet, even if it still looks the same on the outside. The inner landscape has changed, and the outer, it always follows. You're not here to just receive the blessing, you're here to carry it. And carrying requires capacity that only gets built through stillness, through silence, through sacred repetition of showing up for yourself. You did that, and now the blessing is finding its way toward the version of you who doesn't flinch when good things arrive. The version who doesn't sabotage joy because they finally believe they're worthy of it. That's what's happening. Your nervous system is being trained for peace. Your spirit is learning what it feels like to be supported, and your body is adjusting to the vibration of having instead of chasing. So don't be surprised if you feel emotional for no reason. That's the old resistance dissolving. That's your energy making space. You asked for it, and now you're matching it. So take a breath, chosen one. The air is different here. Lighter, calmer, aligned. You're not who you were when you first asked. You've become the version that can finally receive. And because of that, it's coming, not someday, not eventually. Now, there's a shift that happens, not in the sky, not in your surroundings, but in your stance. You go from waiting to walking, from asking to embodying, from wondering when to knowing now. And that shift, it's happening in you. You may not see it yet. You may still wake up with a tight chest. You may still look around and wonder if anything has changed. But deep in your belly, beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, beneath the years of almosts and not yets, there is a pulse. A quiet, steady beat that says, it's happening. And you're not just watching it, you're part of it. Because what's coming, it's not arriving to you, it's arriving through you. And that means you're not a bystander. You're a co-creator. You've been aligned, you've been prepared, and now you're being activated. This isn't about destiny knocking on your door. This is about you realizing you've been the door, the gateway, the bridge, the vessel, and now the blessing is ready to pass through. But blessings don't enter where chaos lives. They enter where clarity resides. So if things have been falling away, if connections dissolved, if plans unraveled, It's not a sign of collapse. It's a sign of cleaning. The space had to be cleared. Not for more clutter, but for presence. Because what you're stepping into now requires your whole self. Not the version of you who tiptoes, not the one who doubts every decision, but the one who walks with quiet fire, the one who doesn't need applause to feel aligned, the one who doesn't need evidence to believe, the one who moves not out of urgency, but from knowing that what's meant for you doesn't need to be wrestled into your life. It flows. It finds you in stillness. It meets you in surrender. And yes, that surrender is uncomfortable, because surrender means trusting without timeline. It means saying, I don't need to control the outcome because I trust the intention. It means walking like the thing you prayed for is already yours because it is. It just hasn't materialized yet. But spiritually, energetically, emotionally, it's already here, and your only task now is to stay in sync, to not jump out of alignment just because your eyes can't see the evidence yet, because the evidence is coming. And when it does, it won't trickle. It'll flood, not to overwhelm, but to match the depth you built in the silence. You didn't just wait. You expanded, you endured, you evolved. And now, that evolution is meeting its mirror. So breathe deeper, walk slower, speak softer, trust louder, because this moment you're in right now, it's not stillness, it's sacred suspense, the moment just before the reveal, the inhale before the exhale, the hush before heaven answers in full. And you're ready. Because you're no longer wondering if it's coming. You're anchoring in the truth that it's already begun. You're not chasing it anymore. You're magnetizing it. And every part of you that used to reach in desperation has learned the art of receiving in peace. This is what trust looks like. Not a feeling, a posture, not a moment, a lifestyle. And the more you live from that frequency, the more the divine rearranges around your steadiness. You're no longer the one pacing the floor. You're the one holding the space. Because you finally know, you're not just hoping it will arrive, you're walking into it. You've spent so long at the edge, watching, wondering, waiting, peering through cracks in time, hoping to see something shift, some sign that all the effort was worth it. And now you're not on the edge anymore. You're in motion, but the motion isn't frantic, it's not desperate, it's not driven by lack, it's deliberate, it's devotional, it's the walk of someone who knows. The gate has already opened. You may not have heard it swing. There was no trumpet, no parade, no applause. But the threshold was crossed, and now your steps are sacred. Not because of where they lead, but because of who is taking them. You, the you who stayed. The you who kept showing up, even in silence. The you who didn't need to be seen to stay steady. So keep walking, even if the road looks unfamiliar, even if no one's beside you yet, even if your knees still remember the days they trembled, because now your walk isn't just about you, it's about the frequency you carry. And that frequency, it's doing more than you know. It's calling forth alignment. It's drawing in people, places, and moments that match your new rhythm. It's dissolving everything that no longer resonates, not as punishment, but as precision. Because what you're walking into is not just a new season, it's a new dimension, and dimensions require clarity, clean energy, clear intention. So let your walk reflect your worth. No more shrinking to fit places that never held your full light. No more apologizing for the peace you've protected. No more negotiating your alignment just to make others comfortable. You're not here to be convenient, you're here to be clear. So walk like it. Walk like someone whose name has already been whispered by the divine. Walk like someone whose presence is the answer they once begged for, because that's who you are now. And this path, it's rising to meet you. There's something different now. You can't quite explain it. You wake up and the air feels thinner. The silence feels fuller. Your chest doesn't ache like before, but it stretches, not from pain, from readiness. You're not on the outside looking in anymore. You're inside the unfolding, inside the answer, inside the arrival. It's no longer something that's on the way. It's something that's already begun to wrap itself around your days, your breath, your thoughts, your very frequency. And it feels strange, doesn't it? To not have to wait anymore. To not feel that old familiar pull of lack. To feel something you've longed for beginning to live inside you. That's not illusion, that's alignment, because you've crossed over from waiting to witnessing, from asking to anchoring. And yes, it's emotional, not because you're unsure, but because you're finally seeing just how much you held, on just how much you trusted with no signs, just how many days you whispered, "I believe," when nothing in your reality said you should. That kind of belief, it reshapes timelines, it bends reality, it tells the divine, they're ready, let it begin, and it has begun. Not all at once, not in fireworks, but in waves. The blessing is not arriving like a lightning strike, it's unfolding like a sunrise. Soft at first, but steady, undeniable, unstoppable. And you're the landscape it's rising over. You're not receiving anymore. You're hosting. You're holding sacred energy in your nervous system now. Energy that doesn't just change your life, it changes the atmosphere around you. People feel it. They may not know what it is, but they feel it. They sense the peace, the quiet confidence, the shift. Because when someone becomes the living answer to their own prayer, they stop radiating need and start radiating truth. And truth, it vibrates differently. You no longer have to prove your worth. You embody it. You no longer have to fight for space. You are the space. You no longer ask, will it happen? You move as if it already has. That's not pretending. That's prophetic alignment, because your spirit remembers what your mind is just now catching up to. You're standing in what once was only vision. You've entered the realm where prayers walk in flesh, where dreams are no longer distance, but dwelling, where the version of you that begged for clarity has finally merged with the version who is the clarity. This is why you've been craving silence. This is why old energies no longer satisfy. This is why your spirit is protecting your peace with a new kind of fire. Because now you know, not think, not hope, not wish. Know, and that knowing, it's unshakable. Not because it's loud, but because it's been tested in every kind of silence. So let the tears come, let the softness rise, let the tension melt. You don't have to explain it to anyone. You are the explanation. You are the proof, not of perfection, but of persistence, not of effort, but of energetic evolution. You stayed when it was easier to quit. You believed when logic said don't. You grew in the dark, and now you're blooming in plain sight. And that blooming, it's just beginning. It's here now, not just close. Not almost. Here. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle shift in the way you breathe. The calm in your chest that wasn't there before. The way your body no longer braces for disappointment. This is it. The moment your spirit has been holding space for. The moment your heart believed in even when logic said it was over, and it didn't arrive with noise. It didn't crash into your world. It bloomed gently, naturally, perfectly timed, because what was coming to you was never late. It was maturing. It was waiting for you to shed the layers that would have sabotaged its beauty, waiting for you to recognize that what's meant for you doesn't arrive with force, it arrives with flow. And now, you are flowing. You're not just receiving anymore, you're carrying sacred momentum. Every tear, every unanswered night, every whispered please, it led here. And now you understand something you couldn't have seen from the valley. The mountain wasn't moved for you. It was moved through you. And that's the difference. You didn't just survive the waiting. You transformed in it. You didn't just hold out for the light. You became the kind of soul that could hold the light without trembling. And now, chosen one, the divine, is responding. Not with theory, but with tangible restoration, with people who speak your language, with moments that echo your essence, with blessings that don't ask you to shrink to fit them. You're not adjusting anymore. You're aligning. You're not performing. You're embodying. You're not explaining. You're walking proof. This is what it looks like when the heavens deliver, not a flash, not a miracle that fades, but a reality that stays. Because you're not who you were when you first asked. You've grown roots now, and blessings aren't fragile, but they do require grounding. And you've been grounded in grace, grace that held you when the answers didn't come, grace that whispered when everything else screamed doubt, grace that walked beside you in silence. And now that same grace is blooming into visibility, so breathe, not like someone hoping, like someone home, because this is the homecoming to your promise, to your prayer, to yourself. You didn't miss it. You didn't mess it up. You didn't fall too far. You arrived exactly when and where you were meant to. So now let yourself feel it, the bigness of it, the realness, the unfamiliar peace that doesn't ask questions. Let yourself live in it, without guilt, without shrinking, without explaining your joy. Because this joy, this breakthrough, was written with your name on it. And now it's yours to carry, yours to honor, yours to protect, not with fear, but with presence. Because the wait is over. Now begins the walk with the answered prayer in your hand. And the way you walk will become someone else's confirmation that their miracle is on its way too. Because this isn't just about you anymore. You've become the evidence. You've become the invitation. You've become the resonance. And resonance doesn't fade. It calls, so go ahead, step forward into this new timeline. Let your life echo the truth of what it took to arrive here. Let your voice speak from fulfillment, not from longing. Let your energy do what words never could. This is what alignment looks like. This is what answered prayer feels like, and it's not going anywhere because it was always yours. And now, so are you, chosen one. This is what arrival feels like. Not a parade, not fireworks, not loud announcements or grand declarations, just a stillness that settles into your bones, a softness that wraps around your breath, a knowing that doesn't need to prove itself anymore. It's done. You've been prepared, not punished. You've been positioned, not passed over, and now that the moment has come, it's not demanding that you do more. It's asking you to be more present, more grounded, more willing to actually receive what you once only dreamed about. Because it's easy to pray for transformation. It's another thing entirely to let go of the self who existed without it. You're not that self anymore. So stop negotiating with old identities. Stop asking for permission from old fears. Stop explaining yourself to versions of you that no longer exist. You don't owe who you used to be anything. They did their job. They got you. Here, now let them rest, because what's ahead? It's not just a blessing, it's a becoming. And becoming demands space. Space in your energy, space in your schedule, space in your soul. That means releasing what no longer resonates, even if it once comforted you. That means creating new rhythms, even if the old ones helped you survive. You're not surviving anymore, you're inhabiting, and that takes practice. You'll wake up and forget. You'll try to shrink again. You'll catch yourself searching for lack out of habit. But then you'll pause. You'll breathe. You'll remember, this is the season I once begged for. And that remembering will anchor you again. It will bring you back to the center, back to the part of you that never gave up. Back to the part of you that chose trust even when there was nothing to hold on to but faith itself. That part of you didn't fail. That part of you activated heaven. And now heaven is responding, not in theory, in practice, in opportunity, in alignment, in relationships that feel like relief, not resistance, in invitations that speak your soul's language and your only job. Now, to say yes, fully, freely, finally. No more waiting for proof. No more downplaying your readiness. No more bracing for loss the moment love arrives. This isn't a test. It's a transition. From hoping to holding, from seeking to seeing, from longing to living. So step like it's yours. Breathe like you deserve it. Walk Like Grace has become your ground because it has. And yes, there will be moments where you feel unworthy. There will be echoes of old pain that ask, is this too good to be true? But now you're strong enough to answer, no, it's good, and it's true, and I'm ready. You're not who you were in the waiting. You're stronger, you're softer, you're clearer, you're wiser, and now you're a vessel that can carry this love, this abundance, this rest, this joy that doesn't demand explanation, this peace that doesn't require justification. You've been assigned not just to receive the blessing, but to sustain it, to nurture it, to walk with it, to be a living altar for everything you once asked for in the dark. And others will feel that. They'll feel it in your presence, in your peace, in the way you no longer flinch when good things come near, because now you know you're not chasing, you're attracting, not by force, but by frequency, not through striving, but through surrender. And that surrender, it's not weakness. It's the deepest kind of strength. The strength that says, I don't need to know how, I only need to know who I am. And you, chosen one, are no longer lost. You are located, grounded, awake, available. And because you are, what you've prayed for has not just found you, it's staying. So make room in your habits, in your heart, in the way you speak to yourself. This is not the season to brace. It's the season to blossom. Let yourself unfold. Let yourself expand. Let yourself receive without resistance, because this time, you're not receiving a glimpse. You're receiving residency. This time, it's not a moment. It's a movement, a timeline, where you don't just manifest, you maintain, where joy isn't borrowed, it's embodied, where love doesn't require sacrifice, it flows from wholeness, where you no longer worry if it's too much. You become someone who can hold it all. That's the new you, not loud, not desperate, but quietly aligned with the divine. And that alignment, it's your proof, your power, your portal. You're not waiting anymore. You're witnessing the promise in motion. And the one thing left to do now? Live it fully, softly, boldly, because it's not just here to be seen, it's here to be lived. And you, chosen one, you were made for this. So what now? Now that the answer has arrived, now that the prayer has become presence, now that the ache has quieted and the wait has ended, what do you do with the thing you once only imagined? You live it, not as a secret, not as something fragile, but as something sacred, meant to move through you, because this wasn't just for you. What you carry now was never meant to stop at your doorstep. It's meant to pour through your life into everything you touch, into the way you speak, into the way you sit in silence, into the way your presence fills a room without trying to prove anything. This is what answered prayer does. It humbles you, it steadies you, it anchors you so deeply that your very existence becomes confirmation for someone else. Someone who is still waiting, still wondering, still whispering, will it ever happen for me? And when they meet you, when they feel the peace you now carry, they'll remember their own promise. Not because you said something wise, but because you became something undeniable. You became evidence, not of effort, but of alignment, not of performance, but of permission. And that permission, it ripples, because now your joy is an invitation, your rest is a revolution, your trust is a template, so let it shine. Quietly, clearly, without apology. Let your decisions reflect your wholeness. Let your posture echo your knowing. Let your spirit lead without needing to convince, because this is your new normal. Not chaos, not proving, not striving, but being. And from this state of being, everything else aligns naturally. Provision flows. Connections align. Paths unfold. Not because you chased them, but because you matched them. You don't have to force what's yours. You only have to remain in agreement with it, and that agreement, it's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's subtle, steady, powerful like gravity, like sunlight, like grace. So carry it with reverence, with joy, with gratitude that doesn't beg, but simply breathes. I knew you'd come, because you did, and now, So, will others? You don't have to rush into what's next. This isn't a moment to manage, it's a moment to merge. Merge with the version of you that no longer clings to outcomes, that no longer performs worthiness, that no longer lives in fear of losing what's already been written into your soul. Let the blessing settle, let it find rest inside you. Let it teach your body a new kind of stillness, not the stillness of waiting, but the stillness of having, of being, of breathing fully without bracing, of knowing that you no longer need to hold your breath for the next wave of loss. This time, it's not leaving, because this time you are staying. Staying in truth, staying in alignment, staying in the posture of one who no longer doubts whether they are the chosen, but lives like they know they are.